Okay, hello everyone. It is episode number 2 of the Love Your Liver live stream. Here with me, Dr. Garrett Smith, also known as the nutrition detective around these YouTube parts. And so we have, this is just a live Q&A. If there's no questions, I go over topics. So for those of you who are subscribers to the channel, feel free to post questions in the chat, and we will get to them. So what if you like this, what I do, where you can get more of this, or where you could learn how to actually fix your liver instead of what a lot of people don't realize they're doing out there is actually hurting their liver. It may feel good for a little bit, but it's actually hurting your liver. That's the Love Your Liver program over at nutritiondetective.com. And then if you like, if you like hearing me talk about research stuff and all the evidence that we have supporting this stuff, I do that once a week in the inner circle over on the Love Your Liver program. That's inside of the program. And that's anywhere from a 3 to 6 hour marathon of me going over research and figuring out new topics and figuring out how to help this world get out of the mass poisoning that we have all been subjected to. And through a lot of misinformation and disinformation, we're continuing to do it in ways that we think are supposed to make us healthier and yet ruin us. This can be fixed. Your liver is it's the strongest, it can take the most punishment, and it is the most capable of regeneration organ in your body. I've had people, with Accutane, which is isotretinoin, aka 13-cis-retinoic acid. It is a legitimate form of vitamin A that they try to say is an active form of vitamin A that you need. You need Accutane, apparently. If you need vitamin A, you need Accutane. Well, Accutane, what it causes is liver injury, aka cholestasis, aka your bile getting into places it's not supposed to be. So I have Accutane people come and talk to me about, can this be fixed? Yes, it can be fixed. Other people have done it, and we are doing the most comprehensive, most angles of fixing it. Other people on the internet will be like, well, I did this and this seemed to fix my problem. And then other people tried and it doesn't work because they don't actually understand what they fixed. And that's really what we're getting at over there in the Love Your Liver program. So the Inner Circle is a weekly thing I do. Actually, today, over on the Inner Circle, we're having Grant Genereux. He joins me once a month for those meetings. He was the guy who wrote the initial ebooks about vitamin A toxicity that so many people have read. He put them out for free. And he just told people what he did to fix his chronic kidney disease, where he was basically at the point of going on dialysis, and his really bad eczema. He did a very simple diet that is not very easy to follow because he eats the same things every day. He's been doing it for 6 years. That takes a special mindset. That takes a special person to do that. He's doing it for science. If you want to hear about somebody who does something for science, Grant doing his diet of beef or bison and white rice and or brown rice. He does a mix of the two, and beans. I believe he does black beans, if I recall correctly. That's not that important, but he has gotten his vitamin A down to almost where the labs don't measure it any lower. And he's been there for a year or two now. So for the people who think vitamin A is a necessary vitamin, it's not. There's actually 3 people who have gotten down to that level. And I just have a new client added to the vitamin A deficiency list, the confirmed by blood testing after she started at 61 in American units, which is about a 2.1 in the kind of worldwide units, the micromoles. And she got down to a 15, which is 0.6 maybe ish. So she's technically deficient. She started out technically vitamin A toxic, And we got her down to technically vitamin A deficient because mainstream only measures blood vitamin A, which is not helpful. It doesn't tell you what's in your liver. We've gotten her deficient, and only things have gotten better. Okay, actually, let me read that. Well, so until we get a question, let me go find the list of things. This woman started her low vitamin A diet and doing the other. She'd been working with me individually on, we do testing, blood testing, hair testing to correct mineral deficiencies. And we also do blood testing for vitamin A and serum bile acids and other things to figure out how your liver is working and what you need and what you don't need. We call it testing, not guessing. So her list of old symptoms: general body aching like fibromyalgia, digestive issues, upset stomachs, gas, constipation, blood sugar swings and crashes, stiff and sore finger joints, light eczema patches on the backs of my arms and calves, fatigue and anxiety. She told me here, she says, I have times when they are all completely gone and I feel really healthy. It's so great. Okay, I see the question. I'll get to that in a second. She says, I know that tomatoes, a nightshade, I'm kind of an expert on nightshades. That was what I came to all of it. That was one of the things I was figuring out. If you want to go Google the original article I did after I spoke at the Weston Price Convention, which, boy, that's a misguided vitamin A poisoning group there. They're just filling people full of vitamin A. I wrote a Nightshades article. If you search Weston Price Nightshades Garrett, generally, or if you just search Weston Price Nightshades, you'll probably find my article from them. This was years ago. And nightshades are poison. You want to know a funny thing that one of the members of the Love Your Liver program figured out? David, who is super helpful, he actually found that one of the compounds in peppers, capsicum, is actually 2 retinoic acids, the most poisonous form of vitamin A, 2 retinoic acids bound together. So what happens if those come into your body and you break them apart? You're basically taking, I don't remember exactly which form of retinoic acid it is, closer to retin-A, tretinoin, or Accutane, isotretinoin, 13-cis retinoic acid, but it's one of those. So you're actually eating retinoic acid when you eat those peppers. Most likely, your body likely cleaves that, just like it cleaves beta carotene into 2 retinaldehydes, two molecules of vitamin A. 1 molecule of beta carotene turns into 2 molecules of vitamin A, retinaldehyde. Not retinol, like you might have been told. It turns into retinaldehyde. And then that can be back converted into retinol. So anyway, she was saying, I know that tomatoes can make the eczema patches come back, but if I don't cheat, they stay away. So we worked on some other things about, in her consult the other day, about helping her bowel movements happen, because getting your bowel movements to happen as naturally as possible is very important. We talk a lot about that. And it's not, the solutions that people think are what they need are not always the solutions. Sometimes, a lot of times on my program, we do less than more. And the people who are used to just adding more and more supplements and adding more and more modalities and more and more and more and more, if you're on 50 pills a day from your practitioner or just on your own design, you're not getting better. 50 pills a day is not the way to getting better. No one is like, oh, just when I got up to like 45 pills a day, that's when everything changed. No. If you're on 50 pills a day, you're taking tons of non-essential nutrients. You're trying to force your body to do something. What do we call it? Forcing your body to do something with an unnatural or non-essential nutrient. We call that drug therapy. Yes, drug therapy can be done with supplements. It's called orthomolecular medicine. They're giving you drug doses of supplements to force your body to do something that it's not already doing. These are the kind of philosophies that drive the stuff. But anyway, she said, I think that the big things for me were getting more magnesium, the vitamin A detox, which is now the Love Your Liver program, and balancing the other minerals over time. That's what we do with testing, not guessing. So anyway, that was just a quick one. She had lots of issues, and now at times they are all completely gone. and her vitamin A is technically deficient. Don't you think that if vitamin A was a real vitamin and we made her deficient in the blood, that she should have more problems, maybe eye problems, maybe the supposed night vision problems in the dry eye? But yet she's getting better in every single way. Grant actually wants to redo the original, the supposed, the classic vitamin A deficiency study in mice. He wants to organize it with a truly vitamin A free diet, which the mice probably didn't have. We're going to make sure there's plenty of zinc in there for the mice. And we're going to make sure that there is taurine in the diet. Because those are key things. If you watch my vitamin A deficiency doesn't exist video here on this channel, you'll see that there's no real, you can find plenty of ways to poke holes in the fact that vitamin A deficiency isn't a real thing. And it's been shown in research studies, even though they try so hard to make sure that you think you need it. And then watch, when you wonder why, if you're into the kind of alternative thinking approaches of the day where you don't always trust the people giving you information, and maybe you think that infertility is a goal of some of these things, make sure to watch my vitamin A and infertility video on this channel also. So let me get, Hannah asks, does vitamin A toxicity have something to do with pancreatitis? Most likely, and it's not in the direct way that we would likely think. So I'm going to do a video on this with all the research. I'm going to get the research that Anthony Mawson has put together. If you don't know who Anthony Mawson is, he was figuring out vitamin A toxicity about 40 years ago. He was starting his journey figuring that stuff out. And what he figured out was that vitamin A causes what's called cholestasis. Cholestasis is the base root of it is chola is bile. Stasis is stagnation. Really what we're talking about in a way when we're talking about cholestasis here is bile is getting into places it's not supposed to be. Whether that is going backwards or breaking through like leaky gut to be absorbed by the bloodstream that doesn't go straight to the liver. We're talking cholestasis is bile getting into the wrong places. So pancreatitis and cholestasis. Could vitamin A toxicity cause pancreatitis? Yes, because vitamin A toxicity in the research, Accutane, for those of you who are interested in that topic, Accutane, isotretinoin, retin-A, all these things, vitamin A from fancy, brightly colored fruits and vegetables, vitamin A from liver, vitamin A from dairy, vitamin A from eggs, egg yolks, over time causes cholestasis. And I'll have all these angles in the presentation. And what that causes is bile goes backwards in the system. Well, in the bile ducts, so if you're not familiar with the bile ducts, there's like, if you think of the liver, it's kind of this triangle organ, and then the bile ducts come out of it, and there's branches. And then it goes to the intestine, which is where you want the bile to go. And one of those branches of the bile ducts is to the gallbladder, and that's your storage area. You can get blockages of the bile duct, the big bile ducts. This is called extrahepatic cholestasis outside of the liver. And one of the ducts that comes off is the pancreas, the pancreatic duct, where the pancreas puts its amylase and lipase and other digestive enzymes, like those of you who've heard of pancreatic enzymes. That's where the pancreas adds its stuff to the bile soup, if you will, to help you digest things like fats and starches. Amylase digests amylose, which is one of the starches, right? So if you get a blockage in those big bile ducts, it backs up. It can back up. One of the places it can back up to is into the pancreas. So you then have bile, which is, by definition, bile is the most toxic fluid in your body, right? If people say, some of the people say the liver doesn't store anything, it's just a processing plant. Well, they're completely wrong. Research everywhere shows that they're wrong. I just found the other day in the research that the liver can store aluminum in it. And then people will say, well, why does the liver store aluminum in it if we don't need it? And you go, really? Really? Do you actually think that the liver wants to store aluminum because we might need it? Does the liver store cadmium? Yeah. Do we need cadmium? I think we can all pretty much agree that we don't. But then they'll say, but the liver stores vitamin A. And I go, yeah, and it stores aluminum and cadmium and all sorts of other toxic stuff too. That doesn't mean your liver's trying to save it for a rainy day. It means it can't. These things, if they get too high in the blood, you get problems. So I think I lost my train of thought there. That's what you get on the live stream. Oh, pancreatitis. So it's bile, most toxic fluid in your body. Your liver, if you say it's a processing plant, which it is, it's a storage depot for poisons. It holds onto them to protect your blood. It's also a processing plant, and it makes bile. It puts toxins into your bile, fat-soluble toxins, toxic metals, glyphosate, all this stuff. It puts it into your bile so you can get it into your intestines. That's where it's supposed to go. So you can poop it out. Or you reabsorb it and it goes back to the liver, and it's basically recycling the enterohepatic circulation. And so you can then put it back into the bile again so you can try to get it out again. Okay? You don't want that bile going anywhere except into your guts and pooping it out, or reabsorbing it and then pooping that out. You're trying to get it out. You don't want to not make bile. That's the thing. People go, well, if bile is so toxic, why don't we try to not make it? That's not the solution. You don't want to try to dump more bile, because if you have cholestasis and your bile is going the wrong direction, you try to push dumping bile and it goes the wrong way, and then you feel terrible. This is a mistake people make when they do high-fat diets, is they think, oh, high fat causes bile dumping. High fat also causes you to reabsorb all those fat-soluble toxins and the vitamin A and the bile. So you're spitting it out into your intestines, but you're reabsorbing it. You're not getting anywhere. So anyway, pancreatitis, backed up bile into the pancreatic duct. You're basically putting toxic bile on your pancreas, which it's not supposed to be exposed to, and it gets inflamed. Pretty simple. So the next question, I could probably go and here, let me just do a quick search, just for those who might doubt. Extrahepatic cholestasis, pancreatitis. Okay. Let me get this copy link address. Here we go. Oh, why do they have to do all the extra stuff? Okay, that link. So Science Direct, there's a bunch of stuff on that page. I'm going to take the text that I want from it. Okay, so here's the quote from Science Direct. Tends to take very academic books or research papers and compile them onto one big page. So if you want to see where this quote came from on that page, you're gonna have to search for it. But this is like what I do in the inner circle. We'll just go, hey, let's go look this up. Let's go see if there's a connection. So acute pancreatitis is complicated by jaundice, often transient, in 15 to 75% of patients. 75% of patients. This may result from inflammatory bile duct obstruction. Wait, inflammatory bile duct obstruction. So the bile can't get through, so it's backing up. Isn't that cholestasis? Or a common cause such as alcohol excess. Alcohol known to damage your liver? Is alcohol known to cause fatty liver, which is a form of cholestasis? Yeah. Or gallstones. Gosh, do you think that if a gallstone was blocking the route of bile, it might cause a backing up of bile into places it doesn't go or shouldn't go? And jaundice, by definition, jaundice is excess bilirubin. Oh, you mean it was named for bilirubin? That's the way I like to say it, bilirubin. You back up bilirubin into your blood, and you get jaundice, or you finally see it as jaundice, that's cholestasis by definition. You are having an excess of bile-related compounds in your blood. So there is the connection. Yes, this is where we have the model of cholestasis as putting bile in places where it shouldn't be. Bile is very inflammatory in general. Don't think of bile as your friend. Don't think of it as an enemy, but don't think of it as your friend. You don't want it. You want to make it. I give an example of this. It's like eating food and pooping. You want to eat food. You want to get what you need out of the food. But then also, you want to poop. You want to get rid of that food when you don't want it anymore. You do not want the food going the wrong way. And for any of you who have heard of leaky gut, leaking things into your system, big proteins that you don't want in your system, it's the same thing. Think of leaky gut, what you've learned about leaky gut, because it's not caused by the things you think it is. Leaky gut is food. In between food and pooping, stuff is going the wrong direction. It's leaking out. Okay, and then people will say leaky gut is behind all of the diseases of today. Well, it's when you understand how it happens, yes, it makes sense. So imagine your liver makes bile. Your bile is the most toxic fluid in your body. You then have obstructions, or there's things, go look these up, vanishing bile duct syndrome. The bile ducts disappear. There's paucity of bile ducts. They find this in newborns where they don't have enough bile ducts to move the bile out of the liver. There's bile duct infarcts or infarctions, where bile ducts, kind of like when somebody has a heart attack or a stroke, the tube actually blows a hole in it. There's a gallstone blocking the gallbladder, the gallbladder duct. That'll block it, back up pressure. So there's all sorts of ways that this can happen. All you want your bile to do, for those of you who still believe that bile is good and necessary and we want to take care of our bile and all this stuff, I'm going to tell you, your liver is very good at making bile. What you need to do and what we focus on is getting your bile moving the right direction only. That's it. You could probably get rid of, if you simply could magically make your bile go the right direction, probably 90 to 95% of your health issues would disappear. It takes a long time to fix this. We have to actually remodel the liver and make new bile ducts, right? Imagine watching construction, road construction. It takes a while, right? We are having to reconstruct the roads in the liver. That's what we're doing. And we have to remove the poisons first. So we remove the poisons that we can figure out cause these problems. We help the liver get rid of the poison by making sure the bile goes the right direction. And then we give the body the nutrients that it needs to repair the damage. Doesn't this all sound simple? It's more complex. I mean, it's as they say, it's simple, not easy. And for those people who are trying to wing the nutrients on their own, best of luck to you. You may or may not know what you're doing. You may or may not know, like I can tell you that 95% of people who take magnesium pills, when I see their results on a hair test, it doesn't get their magnesium where it needs to be. Topical magnesium does, which my next series of updates and articles in the Love Your Liver program is a bunch of stuff on topical magnesium. It is by far the best form of magnesium in terms of getting your levels up. And I'm talking, people say, well, which one? Spray, lotion, foot soaks, baths. Some people use the deodorants to help, magnesium containing deodorants. There's all sorts of things. I don't know about magnesium soap. I saw that come out and I was like, wait. So normally what I tell people with like the spray or the lotion is I say, if you put it on your skin, the general kind of accepted time is it needs to sit on your skin for 20 seconds. People will say magnesium baths needs to be 20 minutes long or longer. Foot soaks, 20 minutes long or longer. If you're going to put on spray or lotion and you want to wash it off when you can, because you don't like it on your skin, but you want to do what you need to do for your health, leave it on 20 minutes, then wash off. So this is just kind of accepted. Somebody might say, is there any science to back that? I would say, not that I know of. But it seems to work. I've seen it work in my clients where we do hair testing and we get to see where their magnesium is at relative to calcium as we go. So topical magnesium is really where it's at. And pills for 95% of people don't bring them up. People say, I'm taking the best one out there. I'm taking magnesium 3 and 8. And I go, yeah, hair tests show that that doesn't really bring your magnesium up to where it needs to be. Oh, magnesium orotate. Have you heard of that? You want to know what? I tried all the orotate minerals in practice with testing. Orotate minerals are garbage. Complete garbage. When you watch testing, they don't work. And they're some of the most expensive minerals out there. Isn't that terrible? They have all this hype from a guy who wrote about them decades ago. Testing shows they don't work. I can tell people just like, oh, you're doing topical magnesium? Add a couple more sprays a day, and that'll probably fix your hair test. It's really when you get into the testing and you're not guessing, it's amazing what you can see works and doesn't work for people. Like I said, there's probably 5% of people that pills work for. I will tell them if they were doing pills and I see that their magnesium's staying okay and they're just like, look, I'm not going to do the topical, and their hair test says it's okay, then we say, hey, it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're one of the lucky ones. Enjoy. Because it doesn't work for everybody. So Genereux asks, would it be possible to unblock the liver ducts through manual stimulation or massage? You're playing a little bit with fire with that one. Okay. So I've been trying to figure out how, because exercise, we have studies on sled dogs. Exercise will increase the retinol esters, the storage form of vitamin A in the blood. Where do retinol esters come from? They come from the liver. What's stored in the liver? Well, bile. I mean, that's where we get bile from. Bile is stored in the liver. That's fatty liver, just so you know. That's when bile is not leaving and getting stored as fatty liver. And even skinny people can have fatty liver. 2% of fatty liver cases are in underweight people. And there's not a whole lot of underweight people these days, right? So 2% of underweight people having fatty liver, well, there's not a whole lot of underweight people. Well, I'll combine this. Okay, so the ADB1 asks, does exercise help the vitamin A reduction? And I'm going to combine that with unblocking the liver ducts through manual stimulation, aka massage. So sled dogs went for a run, and then they saw afterwards, they saw more vitamin A in their blood, which means that they were probably dumping bile. I think I found a paper on exercise basically dumping bile. I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to go look it up right now. I just don't have the time. But I was going through the different agitators, the things that can help if you do the right amount, but they can make you feel worse if you do the wrong amount, too much. Exercise is one of the agitators. For those of you who are chronically ill, you may know that there's a certain amount or a certain type of exercise you can do, and you either feel okay, you don't feel worse. Maybe you feel better, but at least you don't feel worse. And then there's a certain type or amount of exercise that you do and you feel like dog poo, to use a technical term. You did too much and you dumped too much bile backwards into your system because of cholestasis. If you are chronically ill, if you have any health issue, I'm going to say you have some degree of liver injury, which is cholestasis. Okay? This is the cause of your not feeling as well as you'd like. So some people may have a little bit, some people may have a lot. The more you have, when you dump bile and it goes backwards, once you dump too much, you will feel bad. Because now you just dumped bile into your bloodstream, it attacks everything it touches, and your weaknesses, based on genetics, based on your nutrition, based on the toxicity stored in your liver, based on your bile acid profile or pattern. I think there's one more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But yeah, this is why it hits you in certain ways. And this is why even the autoimmune community, which autoimmunity is cholestasis and bile in your blood, they know that once you get one autoimmune disease, even the research shows this, you tend to get another one. And if it goes long enough, you get another one, and then you go and get another one. So that's the common standard idea of autoimmunity. We have several people now doing a low vitamin A diet, whether they're on my program or not, who have gotten rid of technically the autoimmunity by their antibodies in their blood are now back down to normal. Autoimmunity, just so you know, if you are out there, autoimmunity is a poisoning, full stop, of some sort. It's mostly a self-poisoning through the bile going back into you. Whenever you hear people on the internet talking about toxicity and toxins and poisons and all that stuff, and they talk about fixing your liver and all this stuff, and they don't talk about cholestasis, you are actually, what you're doing is you are self-poisoning through your bile going the wrong direction. Nobody talks about it. This is why medicine hasn't figured it out. Why are they not going to figure it out? Because nearly every medication out there damages the liver in some way, causing this cholestasis. So the whole big pharma doesn't want this to get out, because then it would implicate nearly every medication that you've ever taken in your life as causing your health problems now. Okay? So exercise, back to that. Too much exercise, too much heat, too much, maybe those of you out there who are kind of not well, you notice you're very heat intolerant because it'll dump too much bile. Maybe sweating is another agitator. What else is there? There's exercise and sunlight. Are these things generally thought of as good for us? And were they, maybe a lot of you trying to get your health back, you've tried them and you go, I try them and they just destroy me. And you go, I'm telling you, yes, people 20 years ago didn't used to be as cholestatic, didn't have the liver problems that they have today. So as the liver problems get worse, people become less tolerant of these, what I call agitators. I believe that exercise will raise your core body temperature, right? Exercise will make you sweat. Exercise will raise your core body temperature, which will cause more bile dumping. Exercise will cause you to contract your core muscles and squeeze your liver like a tube of toothpaste. What do you think comes out of your liver when you squeeze it? Bile. Where's that bile going? Well, depending upon your cholestasis, some of it's going backwards into your blood. So if somebody did the right amount of exercise or the right amount of, man, if you want to go poking on your liver, I mean, there's going to be risks involved in that, I believe. You know, if somebody's got a damaged gallbladder and their gallbladder wall is getting weak and you start going and poking on it, that's at your own risk. I'm not advising that. I would much rather a natural compression of the liver was being done. That you get two things out of it. If you want to squeeze the liver, you can do it with your own core muscles and get exercise at the same time. So why not do that rather than going and like digging fingers into it? I did find for people in the early days of this, some of you may have done red light therapy, infrared light therapy, or technically near infrared, or laser therapy. We've had some people try it over their liver, and that seems to cause a lot of bile dumping too. A bit too much for people most times. So we're starting to realize it's the whole thing of there is kind of the poison makes the dose, right? But if you start dumping too much bile at once, you're going to feel, and you still have cholestasis, you're going to feel awful, whatever your symptoms are, until that bile goes around in your blood and then your liver finally pulls it out of the blood again to try to send it the right direction. Okay. But that's the connection between exercise and what we see, and what Grant even reports now, and what I can report on my exercise is that as we get this poison out of you, all the poisons, Just think of it as your liver is going to do a better detox than you ever could. Just like, you know, God designed us well, and then humans are trying to modify us while we're here. I don't know that that's a good idea. So going and trying to force your liver to do things, whether it's massage or whether it's other things, we just want to stop forcing toxins on the liver, help the liver get rid of what it's already stored that's toxic, and give it the nutrients that it needs. That's really, those are the biggest things. Is exercise good for people in general? Yes. You'll never hear me disagree with that. Can people do too much exercise for their state of health? For those of you who are out there who are sick, yes, absolutely, you know this. Is exercising until you make yourself feel bad helpful to you? No. If you are doing the right things, over time, exercise will become, you'll get a higher exercise tolerance. Your recovery from exercise, especially in between sets, within a workout, your recovery gets amazing. And people have reported this multiple times. They just go, my recovery is just, the ability to keep going is just getting better and better. So we see this. So total diff, are vitamin A free saturated fatty acids better than polyunsaturated fatty acids? For example, I read some studies which show an increased metabolism by switching from PUFAs to saturated fatty acids. Well, if you're talking about cell studies, those don't always transfer into real studies. Do I think PUFAs? Okay, before we get into this, am I going to obsess on PUFA reductions a la the Ray Peat crowd? No. Do I eat many PUFAs? No. What we do know from the literature, okay, so we have to take a nuanced view on fat, and I have different views on fat in the Love Your Liver program for overweight and underweight people. And there is a nuance to it. And I'm not going to go over it here because out on the wild west of YouTube, people are going to take my advice and do the wrong things with it. And I don't want to do that. So an excess of saturated fatty acids is known in the literature to cause a gut dysbiosis, and it kills off nearly all of your bifidobacterium. And high saturated fat diets in the literature have been shown to, so when you get this dysbiosis, when your bile makes it into your gut, those bacteria turn it into secondary bile acids. Secondary bile acids are bad. The general rule. So those are then reabsorbed by your gut. They go into the portal circulation. They go straight to your liver. That's where you want them to go. If you have leaky gut, they go right into your bloodstream. So they go back to your liver, and it is known that secondary bile acids induce cholestasis and liver injury. Okay? So a high-fat diet by causing a gut dysbiosis, this is all over the literature, you guys. If you're a keto person and you're wondering why you may have had amazing results at the start, and over time your results are fading, and maybe you're getting worse, and you try to eat some carbs again and you can't tolerate them at all, you have induced cholestasis in yourself, and it is going to get worse if you don't do something about it. So anyway, this dysbiosis will then cause cholestasis, which then makes the dysbiosis worse, and then you get into more and more problems. So can saturated fatty acids be an issue? Yes. PUFAs are generally, if you eat the kind of diet, in terms of the people who will say, but essential fatty acids. If you eat the kind of diet that we talk about on the Love Your Liver program, which is a mixed diet, there is no concern about essential fatty acid deficiency. Okay, there's essential fatty acids in beef. Every food that has fat in it has some amount of saturated fat, some amount of monounsaturated fat, and some amount of PUFAs. You cannot avoid all of them. You cannot avoid any one of them if you're going to eat natural foods. So, do I eat many? I mean, if I was going to prioritize fats, I generally try to eat, me personally, the biggest thing I try to not do is add fats, add isolated fats, like, manufactured fats, oils, to my day. If you avoid adding oils to your day, very simply, you get rid of most of the PUFAs. Right? And no one out there should really be selling any idea that processed oils are good for you in any way. I don't care if they're fish oil supplements, cod liver oil, which is just straight poison. You should see my video on this channel about that. Whether it's any oil, nuts and seed oils, and any of that stuff, nobody really should be advertising that those are good for you. Okay, so that's the easiest one to remove. Then we get into something that people don't know about beef, is that the leaner the cut of beef, the more zinc is in it. That's a very good thing. The more fat that's on an animal, we assume that, excess, if you're not in this camp, I'm sorry, you can go back to the camp that believes this, but excess fat on a human is an indicator of unhealthiness. Do I have more than I should? A little bit. I'm working on it hard right now, and it's working. Most of us, 95% of us, probably tend towards overweight. We are making fat to store poisons. So if you think about eating a really fatty steak, you are by definition saying, I'm eating an unhealthier animal than it needs to be. So, and more saturated fats tends to lead to more cholestasis. So, am I like totally against fat? No. People will try to twist my words and say that I'm like totally anti-fat and I'm advocating a fat-free diet. No, not at all. I had chicken thighs, organic chicken thighs for dinner last night. Those aren't fat-free. Did I add any fat to those? No. Because they got plenty in them, right? Do I eat ground beef? Which no matter how you process the ground beef, I do actually strain and drain ground beef just to get as much fat off of it as possible. But is there any way that ground beef is fat-free? No. Am I scared of fat? No. Do I want my fat to come from real food? Yes. If I'm going to be eating beef or chicken, do I want that fat to not contain things like soy? Yes. Somebody's going to say, well, those chicken thighs are going to have, even though they're organic, they were fed with soy. And I say, yeah, and I'm trying to fix that. It's the best I can do right now. We are all living in the real world, and the food supply is going to get very interesting very soon. So do the best you can. But could people feel better from switching from PUFAs to saturated fats in foods? Sure. PUFAs are not good. Do not take PUFA supplements. Do not take fish oil. Do not take flax oil. Do not take seed oils in general. Probably nut oils are not that great, but some nut oils are high in monounsaturated fatty acids, which don't seem to be as bad. But like I said, I talk about overweight and underweight stuff in terms of fats in the program, so I'll leave it at that. But if you're overweight, you have all the fat you need on your body already, and taking in more fat is a lie that's going to somehow balance you out. You want to balance out your fats by having your body choose to get rid of the fats it wants to get rid of first. Okay? There's a comment, I think it has to do with because the fats are more stable. Sure, yeah. I think saturated fats are probably better than PUFAs. Yes, but are we talking about the best of the worst? Possibly. The ADB1 says abdominal breathing will help the liver. That might be the way to do it. Breathing properly is great. I actually like for some breathing progressions and ways to get your diaphragm working in different positions. I actually really like Original Strength. You can find them at originalstrength.net. If there was one exercise system in terms of that included breathing and other movement that you can do at low levels when you're not well, and then you can increase it as much as you want in terms of intensity, original strength is it. It is by far, dollar for dollar, which they're not very expensive, the seminars they give, dollar for dollar, it was the best exercise seminar I ever took. And I used to take a lot of exercise seminars. I was the head personal trainer at the U of A for a while. I opened back before I knew better. I opened the first CrossFit gym in Arizona with another guy. I have plenty of exercise background to know what's good and what's not. And the original strength stuff is some of the best. And the very first thing they do in a workout is diaphragmatic breathing. And they help you learn how to do it properly in multiple positions. Because in real life, you're not just laying on the floor. In real life, you're up and about. And it's awesome. So Jacob asks, is it important to eat at the same time every day when considering the circadian rhythm of the gallbladder / bile? Well, in terms of eating at this, one of the things actually I do have research on this, stress causes bile dumps. And remember, bile dumps can be good or bad depending upon your cholestasis situation. Oh man, I forgot to unplug that phone. Sorry, there's going to be a little noise in the background. That's the thing with live streams. So stress causes bile dumps. Eating at the same time each day, kind of like the thing to think about is let's think of wild mice versus caged mice, let's say laboratory mice or mice that people are taking care of in their homes. Caged mice, domestic mice, if you want to call them that, live a lot longer than their wild counterparts because there's simply a lot less stress and a lot less worrying about things. There's a lot less, concerned food supply, danger from predators, all that stuff. There's a lot less stress in captivity for you humans who realize we're kind of all in a bit of captivity. There's a lot less stress on the mice than there is on the wild ones. Does it have anything to do with bile dumping? I don't know. But having, for humans where we have these big brains and we tend to worry about things, would having a regular eating schedule that you follow tend to reduce your stress level overall in that aspect? Yeah. Routines that are followed tend to calm us, right? As we get older and we get into routines, older tends to mean a less resilient, more fragile system. As we get older people really get into their routines. You may have noticed this. They're like, this is not how I do it. I do it this way. They're not very spontaneous because spontaneous stuff is by its definition stressful. You don't know what's going to happen. But if you know lunchtime is at noon and every day you get lunchtime at noon, that is comforting and relieves stress. So in that way, could eating at the same time every day relieve the mental stress? Yes. Will your body adapt and start kind of like even, like the Pavlov's dogs, you might start salivating if you look at the clock and it's 11:50 and you eat lunch at noon, you may start salivating, your gut juices start going, and then you almost like make yourself hungrier because you're expecting it. If you don't get it, there's a bit of stress, right? And that could be why if you don't eat, you get stressed, you dump bile, it has nothing to do and nowhere to go, and then it goes backwards, and then you feel worse. So, this could be part of, what if a bile dump going the wrong way, putting bile into the blood, was the cause of your hypoglycemia type symptoms? I could go into it where, here, let me find that study just so we can go over, so people will say, what about the connection between bile and blood sugar? Let's see. Here we go. are going to doubt. They're going to be like, I don't know about this bile acid in the blood theory. Okay. Here's this paper. The paper is called Serum Total Bile Acids. Wait, let me make sure. Serum Total Bile Acids associate with risk of incident type 2 diabetes and longitudinal changes in glucose-related metabolic traits. What they are saying is that, well, here, let's just read the conclusion of the abstract, which is very much like the title. Hit the return button. Come on. Oh, it's too long. It's one character too long. Conclusions. Baseline serum total bile acids were significantly associated with incident type 2 diabetes and longitudinal over time changes in glycemic traits. Insulin resistance might partially mediate the association of total bile acids and type 2 diabetes. Can find a lot of papers on vitamin A and what they call retinol binding protein, which is a protein your body only makes to bind to vitamin A. So if you ever see retinol binding protein studies where they're saying retinol binding protein was high and it was associated with insulin resistance, first of all, you don't make retinol binding protein unless there was vitamin A. So even though they might say, well, the retinol binding protein didn't have retinol in it, well, that's because it left. You still have the remnants of your body's defense against it floating around. And then they'll try to say that retinol binding protein itself is inflammatory. And then you go, just because they found a lot of it later, even though there might not have been retinol in it, science loves to do this dance of protecting vitamin A. I don't know why. Vitamin A and infertility, the mainstream science protects vitamin A. One of the guys who has a foundation that's very big in promoting certain injections, his favorite vitamin is vitamin A. Weird coincidence, he gives it for free to third world countries. I don't know why. How's that all connected? You can figure that out. And if we want to talk more about that stuff, that's the kind of stuff that I do in the inner circle inside the network. I'm not going to talk about controversial topics by name here. I have all sorts of opinions you could probably imagine. But yeah, bile acids, the more bile you have in your blood, the more your risk of diabetes. Weird. It's almost like bile in your blood causes disease. And it doesn't have to be out of range. If you go and you get a serum bile acids test, which I run as part of my package, your serum bile acids should be 0. If they are not 0, you have some amount of cholestasis. Vitamin A, in my opinion, should be 0 or next to 0. If it's not, you have some amount of cholestasis. Because vitamin A gets into the blood through the cholestatic reflux. When I'll explain more on that later. We only got like, I got to be on my I got to be doing another video Q&A here in about 5 minutes. So let me see if I can hit one more question. Vic asks, can backed up bile cause the antibodies that attack the thyroid and Hashimoto's? So yes, absolutely. Let's see if I can find something real quick. Autoimmune thyroid serum bile PubMed. I got 2 papers here. I don't know. I'm going to pull up I'm not going to pull up that whole paper. But here we have we have a paper. The title of it is Increased Incidence of Hypothyroidism in Primary Biliary Cirrhosis. So you guys don't need to post any new questions because I'm out of time. Save your questions for next time. Or if you join the Love Your Liver program and you join the inner circle, then you can ask questions as much as you want there. I do hours there a week. So here's the last sentence of it. Therefore, the development of cholestatic liver disease in a patient with known autoimmune thyroiditis should arouse suspicion of primary biliary cirrhosis. Primary biliary cirrhosis, by definition, is cholestasis. Think of it as fatty liver is late stage cholestasis. You're storing, your body can't get rid of the bile. You're making it. People seem to think that the body's not making bile. Your liver cells are, the liver cells that make bile are making bile. If they're alive and they're functioning, they're making bile. The question is, where is it going? You can, if it can't get out, let's say you have vanishing bile duct syndrome. Your bile ducts are poof, gone. What's your liver going to do with it? It has to do something with those bile acids, because they're damaging the very liver cells that make them. We have the research on that. Your bile damages everything it touches, including the liver cells. That's why we need to put less toxins in, so your bile is less toxic, so it stops damaging your liver first. So, fatty liver, you start storing the bile acids. What do we get into cirrhosis? Cirrhosis is where the liver cells and the liver itself is becoming so damaged from that toxic bile that it's scarring. It's on its way to those liver cells that are scarred. Not all of them are scarred, but the ones that are scarred are on their way to necrosis and apoptosis, dying. Okay? But when you hear cirrhosis, you should think cholestasis, like late stage cholestasis. That's what that is. And if you go and you look up cirrhosis and serum bile acids, you'll find that those are just through the roof. So there's an association between autoimmune thyroid and cholestasis conditions, you say? Here I'm not going to look up this whole paper, but we have another one, serum metabolic patterns in patients with autoimmune thyroid disease. Okay. There's no abstract on that paper, and I'm not going to, or there is an abstract. Wait. Yeah, but they didn't mention what the serum bile is, and I'm not going to go on Sci-Hub or LibGen and find it right now because I don't have the time. So anyway, yeah, we're going to wrap this up now. For those of you who enjoyed this and you want to hear more and you want to get the answers to the more complex questions that I'm not going to cover here, this work requires a person to not only be intelligent enough to figure it out, but you have to care enough to, the Love Your Liver program is a do-it-yourself program. It's not me guiding everybody. Do I make comments there? Yes. It's kind of like a mini Facebook with courses. But I'm not there giving personalized information. If you want individualized, personalized information, that's what I do in my testing and consult packages, and you can find those at nutritiondetective.com. You can find the Love Your Liver, which is a do-it-yourself program, at nutritiondetective.com. If you end up working with me on testing and consultation, you get free access with the packages to the Love Your Liver program for life. The Inner Circle is my video Q&A where people get to post questions and I answer it. Like, I've done multiple 6-hour sessions on that. Grant, I do that weekly. Grant joins me once a month, like he's joining me today for those. There's also the Advanced Detox program in there, which is where there's some other higher level articles for people who are really into it. And they get to watch the Inner Circle videos a month after they air live. But yeah, it's a lot of fun over there. We have a great community, really active. I didn't look at the count last time, but we're over 700 people and great people there. So if you have questions, The questions today kind of started out slow. So I was talking about some other stuff, but if you have questions, come next week and I'll get to them. Come here, you post them in the chat before it even opens, and I will get to them in the order that they're posted. Remember that the really controversial topics of today, I'm not going to really cover them, or I'm going to just give a super superficial opinion of mine on them, because I want to stick around and I don't need to be axed for stuff that is not going to change anybody's mind, but it would only get me in trouble. Okay? So this is Dr. Garrett Smith, the nutrition detective of nutritiondetective.com. Hope you all enjoyed it today. Remember, bring your questions next week if I didn't get to them today, and I will see you next time. Bye.